So I guess I wanted to ask you, Dirk, like in your view, 2025 was the season of what, or the year of what for the Chiefs?
Amateur Hour Chiefs Podcast. Amateur Hour Chiefs Podcast. Amateur Hour Podcast on KC Sports Network. Amateur on KC Sports Network. Hour on KC Sports Network. Podcast on KC Sports Net. We're gonna talk Chiefs football for you, and you, and you, and you.
What is this, amateur hour?
Yeah, I ain't no Superman businessman like you. You know, I'm just a
amateur,
I suppose.
Amateur hour
Is what's happening.
Amateur hour
Is what's happening.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Yeah, that's right, folks. The show is called Amateur Hour. I'm Ryan Scott Hall. And joining me today, live from Cancun, is Dirkness.
Oh, Stop.
Dirk, I see that you are in a Travis Kelce jersey today. Is that like for fear that, you know, it's our last hurrah?
Oh, I wouldn't say fear in honor of. Sure.
Okay.
Deserves it?
Am I the only person that's just not buying it?
Not by
I mean,
what?
me and
Good.
Chris Jones, I think he's coming back. And I don't think it's going to be a tough decision for him. Like the guy that said I can't go out like that after losing the Super Bowl is I know that maybe you don't get to pick your endings, but like I just can't. I can't see the last few games of his career being completely meaningless playing with Chris Oladokin. Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't see it. I think he's coming back.
I mean, those games would be a tough way to go out. I was convinced of the Chiefs Broncos just because they played it up so much. Just everything about the ending of that game was about Travis Kelce, and I thought they were clued in from Kelce himself that like this was going to be the end, and that's why they're kind of because they do like those pregame meetings or whatever, and so they played it up so much that I was just thinking like, man, I think they know something here, and that's why they're trying to give him his goodbye here on national TV and all that. But I don't know, that would kind of lead to him almost like a report coming out this week or something like he decided. But now that nothing else has really come out about it, I could easily see him coming back.
I think
it's tough to like pick your exit because you could go out after winning back to back because you got to go for the three-peat and then you lost and you don't want to go out on that heartbreak of a shitty game. So then you come back and then you have a shitty season. You don't want to go out on that shitty season. So I mean, it's hard to pick your way out unless you're just going to say the Chiefs come back and win the Super Bowl next year. And sure, then I guess you can go out.
I think that there's a lot of different ways that it could look, but like Travis, it really does appear to be an all or nothing guy. Nick in the chat was like, maybe he can do the Gronk thing where like he kind of comes back halfway through the season. I think that Kelce is going to tell you before free agency starts whether or not he's coming back, and he will be all in if he comes back. And we saw such an uptick in his play year over year. The 2024 season looked like a guy that had been, running around the world following Taylor Swift. And I don't mean that to disparage him, but like he clearly looked like he was in better shape, more athletic, a little bit, like he was recovering a little bit better. He's not the most explosive guy in the world, but still had a couple plays where he's making guys miss and stuff. And he, I think, showed that there just aren't very many people in the league, even people that are 10 years or more younger than him, that just have the savvy. Like even for what he has lost in athleticism, he's still just so smart. And I do think that the Chiefs could use him next year. But before I guess we start thinking about next year, do you got a big thing? Is there a big thing today?
I don't have a big thing.
Your big thing's broken.
I lost my big thing is shriveled up and.
Okay. Yeah. It's on vacation. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can we start with this then? I do think one of the big.
I didn't even think about it. Never even once crossed my mind to prepare something. I don't know what the hell I talk. I guess Travis Kelce. I guess I could write a little monologue about Travis Kelce. I don't. No,
one of the big things, I guess, news-wise that's going on right now are the hirings, or not hirings, just firings, right? It's Black Monday as of this recording. Matt Nagy's name is being bandied about in a number of different places. Namely, right now, I believe both the Titans and Giants are intending to interview him. And we also saw Spags' name pop up too. I guess I just want to say there's a lot of people that are like celebrating the fact that Matt Nagy appears to be like rolled out on a red carpet. Here is a head coaching candidate that everyone needs to be looking at. The Chiefs, I feel like, did this a little bit with Bieniemy when they had decided it's time, and were like really pushing for him. I just want to state clearly that I view Matt Nagy as a good coach. I don't think hiring him as a head coach is necessarily even a bad idea for some other organization in the league. But I do think that as the offensive coordinator under Andy Reid, he's not pushing his head coach out of the comfort zone enough for us to be successful like year in and year out over a long period of time. Like I think that we've seen enough of Matt Nagy working under Andy Reid. And I don't think that like another year of those two together is going to bring all of the changes that we want. I don't know if we want to talk about groupthink or that Nagy doesn't want to push his old ball coach too much or what. I don't know. I'm not in the room. It doesn't matter. But I don't think that Nagy working under Andy is getting enough of the difference of opinion maybe that we're looking for. But I do think that he is a good coach.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. I mean, he's definitely being scapegoated right now, but it's almost more of like what he represents than like Nagy himself, I think, because it's just kind of like coming in with the same over and over. And it just, you repeated the same too many times across the team, but most especially in the coaching staff. And so Nagy just kind of represents that idea now, I think. I don't think like just him being on the team was what tanked this season, and now him being off the team, the offense is just going to magically be back next year. I don't think that at all. And yeah, as uninspiring as like the hire seems for a team, you look back, you think back, he has Trubisky his rookie year. Throughout Trubisky's rookie year, then he goes 11-3 with Trubisky, and then 8-7, and then 6-3 for the 3 years that he's there with Mitch Trubisky, who's never gotten another job and by most accounts isn't really a starting caliber quarterback in this league. He was just able to kind of, run that Alex Smith type offense and maximize what he was able to do. So, after really scoffing at the idea of him becoming a head coach again in the league, and really, man, has anyone suffered more from like a meme, like a GIF that goes around of him just staring at that missed field goal with, the open, dumb face look on his face, which
wasn't it
isn't his fault at all.
The doink, right? Or
the double doink. That was the actual double doink.
Yeah.
It might have hit. Did it hit all three? I feel like one of them hit both crossbar, or both uprights, and then a crossbar. I don't know. It was a bad one, and I think it was like a relatively short field goal where he would have won a playoff game with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's the worst hire in the world, but it does kind of seem like they're heading for a divorce. Like you keep getting reports on Matt Nagy being a free agent, not being under contract with the Chiefs, which isn't something that necessarily always gets out. But this has gotten out on multiple fronts, it's looked like.
Do you think that's Nagy's camp? Like, hey guys, it's not even that, he's a good candidate. You're not going to have to do it. Like he is a street free agent, not under contract with the Chiefs anymore. I don't know. I mean, because it seems like people have talked about like a push. That article came out, which frankly I thought was compelling. It reminded me of some of that stuff about he and Trubisky and how successful they actually were. And this is a guy that with head coaching experience, and if he steps into a place, I mean, think about like the Giants job, one of the jobs that he's reportedly in consideration for. I mean, there are going to be different opinions about a guy like Jackson Dart, but I think that Nagy brings a certain floor of respectability with an offense that like they will be able to operate and score points. And I think that like having, Dart and Scatabo and Neighbors and whomever else they add in terms of those pieces, plus a very, very good left tackle. I don't know about the rest of the offensive line. And a talented defense. Well, I was taking a walk earlier and I actually started imagining like, what if the Giants got Spagnuolo and Nagy?
Oh,
and not because Andy wanted them to leave or whatever, but they both, and they kind of did like a co-head coach or whatever. Like, I don't know which one the Giants would name as the head coach, but like one of them's in front charge of the offense. The other one's in charge of the defense. That basically, I mean, that's what Andy and Spags are doing here. It's not in title, but like, that's what's happening. Right. So maybe it's Nagy as the head coach or maybe it's Spags as the head coach and he just hires Nagy as the OC. That seems more likely, I guess. Hey, Matt, you get to call plays here, but like those two paired up with the talent that the Giants have, I think that they would like be a favorite to make the playoffs. I mean that like there's some interesting stuff in the wind here for the Chiefs where like you said on that 21 questions with Craig that Craig had talked about big changes in the coaching staff coming. That'll be interesting. I do want to put this I want to put this year to bed real quick before we take our first break.
This year is nice and drunk. It needs to be carried to bed.
Right.
It's passed out on the couch. Open bottle next to it, spilling out on the carpet. Take him to bed.
We don't necessarily need to talk about the game yesterday, mostly because I took a really long nap.
During the game?
I fell asleep in the first quarter and woke up in the fourth.
I mean, that's literally taking the season to bed.
Yeah. Well, look, we've established that this season will be remembered as the Mahomes ACL season in the annals of history, despite knowing that that's a little dishonest.
No.
So I guess I wanted to ask you, Dirk, like in your view, 2025 was the season of what, or the year of what for the Chiefs?
2025 was the year of the drain. Looked up the definition of drain. To cause the gradual disappearance of. Chiefs going from the best 3 and 5 year runs in NFL history to this season. To draw off gradually or completely. Chiefs simply ran out of juice. Got all they could out of this run. To exhaust physically or emotionally. Chiefs run finally caught up to them. The extra games. The circles on the schedule. The low draft picks. The chase for the three-peat. The 2025 Kansas City Chiefs drained of talent, drained of energy, drained of wisdom, all of which leads to where the Chiefs season ended up, down the drain. That's Dirk's big thing.
I like it. I think Simmons and Sal said that the Chiefs were the year from hell team, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I couldn't have guessed it would have gotten this bad. If you would have asked me before the season, like, what's the absolute floor for the team? Sans a Mahomes injury, so it kind of clouds the numbers in here. They probably go 8 or 9. They at least go 8 or 9 with Mahomes. Maybe 9 or 8. 9 and 8. So that I guess I would have put the floor like right around there. I would have been hard pressed, been like, this team could actually miss the playoffs with 17 healthy games with Patrick Mahomes. I might not have thought it was possible. It's tough to say in retrospect, but that would have been very hard to see before the season.
We saw it happen. And if you ask me a few months from now, a fully healthy Patrick Mahomes season, could the Chiefs miss the playoffs? I'd say impossible. There's no way. There's just no way.
Yeah.
I in trying to answer this question, 2025 is the season of what, or the year of what? I said it's the year that it all came crashing down. And although the initial crash happened in the Super Bowl that was attached to the 2024 season, that game actually took place in 2025. And dare I say that every single domino since that loss has been just the same long, agonizing crash. It's like Talladega Nights when they go to commercial and they come back and the car is still crashing. That is the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs. I guess you could see also the Super Bowl hangover to end all Super Bowl hangovers. And maybe that's how I'll ultimately remember this year. You know, they just kept bringing the band back together. Everything was outdated. They didn't change enough to keep up with the league, especially when teams outside of your division are built specifically to beat you. Case in point, Buffalo Bills. Like, it all does, as you mentioned, catch up eventually. I think everybody's going to circle going from 11-0 to 1-9 in one score games, which is insane. And also probably emblematic of the toll of all that extra time and the way that it took it on their focus. And I think ultimately probably their motivation in 2025. I think everybody was just tired and they need a break. And that's exactly what we're going to take right now. And on the other side, we're going to look at the 4 biggest questions for the Kansas City Chiefs this offseason.
Heather Luce, broker owner, KC Local Homes, and Emprise Bank has been a great partner for us. They're our partner in Possible. Debbie and I hit it off immediately. And she was one of the first bankers that I would say sat down with me and actually like genuinely cared about my story and where I was coming from and what I was trying to do, not just what kind of loan do you need? How much equity do you have? You know, and she really kind of laid out my options for me and just made the process make sense. And I felt comfortable with it. Start to talk about it and think about it. A building popped up that I wanted, that I could afford, and it was in a great area. And so they really guided me through the SBA. I used the SBA loan to acquire it and really guided me through that process and made it happen. I think that we talk about that a lot, where we wouldn't have a business. We wouldn't have what we have here if we didn't have the clientele that we do. I've always functioned out of a people over profits mentality. The houses sell themselves, right? Like, I'm here to help people and facilitate the transaction for them.
Hey, what's happening, people? It is Benny Heiss, KCSN betting analyst. And while the Chiefs may not be in the playoffs, that doesn't mean there is not plenty of action to go around for the rest of you that are still crazy fans of the National Football League. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, it makes every playoff moment feel bigger. So whether you're looking at individual matchups in the wild card, or for a possible Super Bowl matchup, or for futures come postseason time, DraftKings has your back, and they also have your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop goes down at any point in the first half, guess what? You can still get paid in cash. What an opportunity. What a way to be able to enjoy the playoffs and not worry about anybody that you include in those props going down, especially early on, and ruining the rest of all of your legs. So here's what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the code KCSN, that is code KCSN, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. You must be 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Well, Dirk, Happy New Year.
But let me add there. How this year will be remembered, like in the future, matters greatly on how they do next year. Because, if this trend kind of continues, if they're just if they miss the playoffs next year or just like a wild card weak team, then this year will be seen as the absolute end. But there's still a chance that this team just rebounds and they're back to the Chiefs as we know it next year. And this year is just seen as a blip. And that's when we can use the line, we only missed the playoffs because of Patrick Mahomes' injury.
Yeah.
So a lot of how this season will be remembered in history will depend on how they respond over the next year or two, to put it in context.
And how they respond leads right into, I think, the biggest question that they have to ask themselves this offseason, and that's how much are you willing to change? And I don't ask that question, how much are you willing to change, and phrase it that way because I think that they have to change so much that whatever restrictions they put on it are going to be a hindrance to the team. That's not, I think, where we're coming from. But a huge question that they're going to have to ask, whether it's about the coaching staff, whether it's about their schemes, whether it's about their personnel, even the types of players or how they develop players, like all of these different things. When you have a season like this, I think that every single aspect of your organization can and should be called into question. You should be doing self-scouting with all of this extra time in January where you would normally be playing football. The time that you lost each of these last off seasons, you get to dig in and really look in the mirror in a way that you haven't, I think, for a while. You've been carrying on saying, oh, well, we got to use a lot of last year's plan and we only want to tweak little things because last year was successful. Well, this last year was not successful. And that doesn't mean that you can't have carryover from those plans. But honestly, you really want to tear all that shit up and feel like you're starting from scratch. I'm curious, Dirk. I don't think that this is a question we can even answer, right? Like, how much are the Chiefs willing to change? This isn't something that I think you spend a whole lot of time on. But
it's a lot of pressure off my end, so I don't have to answer it.
Right. Is there any type of change, whether it is coaching staff's scheme or personnel, that as you enter the offseason is front of mind? I would imagine it's that run game, right?
Yeah, I think we got to the end of our last pod, but yeah, I think the run game is call it the unit most in need of change, of a makeover, of rebuilding. And it's also probably the easiest unit to rebuild, just because it's running backs are low market. So that's kind of easy to change over year after year. And then I think there should be writing on the wall that the run game is not working. I mean, it's kind of like it was a bad unit on the team this year. So if there's kind of one thing you're pointing your finger at, the pass game, we've seen success from this past game before, kind of thing. This defense, we've seen success from this defense before. This run game's always just been kind of Now, that's never really caught up with them before until this year, when you kind of look around the NFL and it's all the best offenses suddenly have run teams. The philosophies on defense are just changing, and run game is just kind of back in vogue. All the best offenses have a good run game, and the Chiefs just couldn't get there. And it really finally started to catch up to them. So I think that's kind of the easiest thing to start at and be like, that's where we need to change. And if we know one thing about Brett Veach, when the Chiefs have encountered, adversity like this, he kind of picks one thing and then attacks that fully in the offseason. That's been the offensive line after the Tampa Bay Super Bowl loss. That's been the wide receivers after when was that even after the Super Bowl win? Or after the 2023 season. Then we, threw darts after that, bringing in Marquise Brown and drafting Xavier Worthy. So he kind of likes to go all in on the problem area. So it would not shock me if the problem area is identified as fixing this running game. So
the second question for the Chiefs this offseason is, what does fix the run game mean for the Reid Mahomes era Chiefs, right? Because this is a pass first football team. And as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are running the show, they probably should be. Right? I don't want to be the one person out here, the lone wolf in the wilderness, trying to say, hey, we need to run the ball more than we pass it. That seems foolish and probably not even realistic. I am curious, before I start digging into some of the thoughts and stats and stuff that are connected to this question, Dirk, do you think there's a possibility that this front office and this coaching staff are going to tell themselves that, well, the only thing that isn't really working is that run game. And so if we change the run game, if we add talent there and we get a different coach or whatever, that we can just keep doing what we've been doing in the pass game, because if the run game's more successful, it'll make it easier to pass, and then we're good. Worried that they're going to say, we're going to spend this offseason focusing on the run and the pass because of all of the concepts that we've had so much success with for so long, that we'll just be fine there. And they like their talent, you know, most of that offensive line's going to come back. Not necessarily most of the receiver room, but like your two big contributors. There's a lot in there that, like, I'm worried that they might get a little tunnel vision on the run game and think, well, we still have Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and maybe Travis Kelce. You know, is that a fear for you at all? Or
yeah, I mean, a little bit, yes. I think the Chiefs were kind of correctly sitting around like a lot of the fans were and saying, if we fix this offensive line and get our weapons back at receiver, the passing game will be better. And we got to see that, and it actually got worse. So it would be troubling if they were to look at that the same way and then not, you know, have ways to fix that. The problem is, you know, the receivers might not be as good as we were hoping they would be, but they're more than likely going to be receiver 1 and receiver 2 going into next year once again. Like, they will probably be the top 2 receivers on this team again. So, you know, I kind of look at the passing game. I know we started on the running game here, but it's bleeding over. The Chiefs just kind of need their dudes to be better. And that means Rashee Rice, and that means Xavier Worthy, and yes, that means Patrick Mahomes. And they just need the passing game and take that further. I mean, that needs to be the offensive coordinator. That needs to be Andy Reid. They need to be better across the board. But I don't know if we'll see like that much, you know, actual change in the passing game. So where that change comes from, I would hope it's just kind of schematically and from within Andy Reid's brain is where I'm kind of looking. Am I afraid of that? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, a little bit, yeah. But also, you could convince me if they fix this running game and it goes from, you know, what was it this year? Bottom 5 easily.
Oh, I got you.
Worse than that.
We'll get
and if you take that into a top half or near the top 10, because if you really attack it, then that might be enough to transform this offense. Like, there's a lot of numbers that said this offense was pretty damn good this year, you know, before any of these changes. So if they were to fix that running game, it might help fix that passing game, you know, get more people into the box, open up the deep passing game, everything that comes along with it. So that might be enough. But yeah, it is still a fear of mine. Yeah. Yeah.
So a couple headlines here. If we're thinking about trying to fix the run game, like the question is, what does that mean when your coach is Andy Reid and your quarterback is Patrick Mahomes? Well, I saw a graphic from Price Carter, 3rd most RPO plays in the league. The Chiefs were this year. They ran like 130 RPOs or something, 84% pass. Okay. That's really high. Most of the teams around them were either 50-50 pass or actually leaning toward the run on RPOs. Now, I will say, literally 45 minutes before we started the show, Andy Reid spoke to the media. And when asked about the running game, here is a quote from Andy Reid, courtesy of our guy, Charles Goldman. "We're not getting enough reaction out of them in play action. There was not enough respect there that needs to be given, and somewhere you'd like to have a few bigger plays in that area. That's a part of it. There's a part of it that we can look at for the play action and guys and make sure that we execute better." Yeah, they're not going to respect the play action if you on RPOs are throwing the ball 84% of the time. Like, why would they bite? There's no need to do it. The hot topic this year, because I believe that each of the 4 considered top offenses in the playoffs were all 1, 2, 3, and 4 in under center plays. The Chiefs were 31st in plays run from under center. Bottom 10 in rushing yards. They were 23rd in rushing yards just total rushing yards on the season. The only one positive I saw, fewest fumbles in the NFL. They only fumbled the ball 3 times and lost 1 the entire season.
Well, and that's what did we have yesterday?
That was I didn't count.
Yesterday?
This was doing numbers before yesterday, thinking that I probably wouldn't get fully updated maybe today, but who knows?
We had at least 1 or 2, but all right, go
on. Another big problem area in this run game is the lack of explosive plays. Their longest run of the season was just 35 yards. Only the Giants and Saints had runs that were shorter than that on the year. In explosive play rate, how often you get a 10 or more yard run. Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco were 88th and 89th, respectively, in the league. Only Chuba Hubbard and RJ Harvey were worse in terms of volume and explosive play rate. Chuba coming off an injury, RJ Harvey, a rookie that they haven't figured out how to use yet. Something I thought that was really interesting when I was thinking about, fixing the run game, putting more of an emphasis on the run game. Did you happen to see, I saw someone mentioned that the Bills their run pass ratio was almost exactly 50-50. 504 dropbacks. That includes sacks and 506 handoffs this year. Unbelievable that the Bills are that even. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think the Bills are like the bastion of offense this year or anything.
It's been that way for a while, though. I mean, it was that way last year when Joshua Allen won an MVP doing that. So.
Right. And that's, I think the point is that I'm not talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers here that have a 50-50 run pass ratio. We're talking about Josh Allen, who people are trying to say this is the best quarterback in the league. And his team is running the ball that often. They're not putting so much on Josh that he's got to throw the ball 60% of the time, and
I kind of wrestle with that.
He might be a better thrower. So maybe you want him to throw it more, but I don't know, especially not throwing it deep.
What?
Especially not throwing it deep. He sucks at throwing it deep. I don't need to whisper. Wasn't trying high. Yeah. Pat Mahomes sucks at throwing the ball deep right now.
Yeah.
That needs to be.
That'd be nice to get back. All those numbers you were kind of pointing out just all pointed towards a lack of respect of the Chiefs running game.
Yeah.
The explosive
even
play
like in-house, right? That's part of the problem. We're not showing enough respect to it as a team or as an offense.
Well, it's because they know we won't, stick with it. So they might, have a couple of nice runs in here, but they're never going to, go with a run-heavy game plan for an entire game unless it's some random Wednesday afternoon game in Orchard Park where Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets 39 carries or whatever it was. Other than that one day and a few games when they had 0 receivers during the 2024 season, when they just ran Kareem Hunt to death. Outside of that,
Kareem's rookie year, I think they have to have the right player, right?
Yes. They don't have talent there right now. So I didn't buy the argument that they should have run the ball more this year kind of thing because they weren't good at it. So,
sure. Yes.
But they have to get better at it. So then you have to get better at it, and then you have to kind of establish it. But they're not getting any big plays in the run game because those safeties are just sitting deep. So it's not that there's no coming down, and then you can pop a big one because there's no one in the back end. They might get to that third level, but then it's cut off in the 5 to 8 yard range with the safety crashing down after he sees it's a run kind of thing. And that's why Kareem Hunt had all those 5 to 6, 7, 8 yard runs last year, but nothing over 12 yards. Right. Those safeties were just sitting there playing the pass. Okay, we'll come down and shut down this one run and then get back to defending the pass again. All those signs point to that. What was the end of your question there? There was more.
Oh, well, I'm kind of looking at some of these run pass ratios. Most teams, look, passing success. How about that? Passing success down across the league. Even if the attempts are there. This is how I'll I guess, quantify that. Go ahead while I scroll in my notes.
Well, I forget, you were talking about Josh Allen and the 50-50 run thing. I don't think you need to do that with Mahomes. They had to do that with Josh Allen out of necessity because he was just making way too many mistakes.
He was turning the ball over a lot.
That's why they were 6-6 that year, and his interceptions were just sky high. And it's we have to find a way to reel him in, because we cannot just roll him out there and let him, throw the ball 40 times a game. It's just too high of a probability he's going to make a couple mistakes in there. It's going to cost us the game. So they had to physically reel him in. I don't think you have to do that with Mahomes because, honestly, he's overly cautious at this point. But I think he takes good enough care of the ball that you don't need to protect him in that way. Now you need to help him in that way. So that will help. But I don't think I don't think you'll ever get to that point with, the Bills got with Josh Allen, where they've kind of found a comfort, but they also found their running back. If you find a stud like James Cook, then the Chiefs should lean more and more into that run, but they got to find that guy. But I don't know. Andy's just leaned on the pass forever. Mm-hmm. It's hard to see him completely changing his stripes. I pulled where the Chiefs ranked in rush attempts per game in the Mahomes era. So from 2018 to this year, they went 24th, 27th, 24th, 20th, 24th, 25th, 17th last year, and down to 25th this year. So they kind of did it last year just because they had all those receiver injuries, and they're just Travis Kelce was old. It's we don't know who to throw the ball to, so we're just taking 3-yard gains and moving on. But yeah, obviously Andy Reid's never going to be high up there in the run game. I almost should have gone back and looked at the Alex Smith years. I wonder how high they ranked in those years. But even then, I think they leaned pass heavy. It was just a short passing game. They kind of used that as the run game. So that's another thing. They like their screens. They like their short passes and kind of use that as an extended running game. But I don't think they'll ever be run heavy. But they need opposing defenses to respect the run game. However they can do that, that's what they need. The number one thing on the docket for this offseason going into next year, get defenses to actually respect the Chiefs running game.
I think that the Chiefs have to, it's absolutely essential, understand that this isn't necessarily so much about the Chiefs as it is an NFL trend. I did a little bit of digging. I guess we could call this a deep dive. It's not really a deep dive. It's not exactly a deep dive, but I did go back 15 years. So I mostly wanted to look at 4,000-yard passers. That's kind of the benchmark number for throwing the football. If you had a 4,000-yard season, it was good. And I don't know if I don't think that's the equivalent of the 1,000-yard rushing season. Is it 4,000 isn't the bar to clear? Is it?
It used to be 3,000 and 1,000, but that'd be more 90s language.
Yeah.
So it just kind of goes by era. And then all of a sudden, then you had all quarterbacks throwing for 5,000 yards, reaching right. The top one's reaching 5,000, but most of them throwing for 4,000 if you were healthy all season. And that was more 5 years ago or so. Well,
so if we just look at generally the Mahomes era, Mahomes was drafted in 2017. That first season, Alex was the starter. That year, 8 guys threw for 4,000 yards in 2017. And here's how many threw for 4,000 since 2017. 2018, there were 13 guys that did it. And then 11, 12, 10, 9, 10. And then each of these last 2 years, 24 and 25, just 6 quarterbacks have thrown for 4,000 yards. So I kept going backward trying to find, when did they have this few? Guys, I had to go back to 2010 when they had 5 guys throw for 4,000 yards. So the NFL has in back-to-back seasons had the fewest number of 4,000-yard passers that they have in 15 years. Defenses are winning right now. And because of that, I think teams are having to shift the focus toward the run game. I don't think that this was offenses saying oh man, look at this historic group of running backs coming out of college. We're going to start running the ball more. This was about defenses attacking Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, attacking, throwing the ball downfield, and all these teams trying to say, we want to be like the Chiefs. And then defenses said, everyone's built the same way and they're all trying to do the same thing. So we just have to do this. And all of these offenses had to scramble to change. And I believe that, unfortunately, the Chiefs have been a little bit too slow to make those changes, especially as far as the running game is concerned. They're also a little bit susceptible because Andy Reid has never been a big emphasizer of the run game. Now, you and I believe that personnel is the primary issue. Maybe the actual running scheme needs some work as well.
I think the scheme needs a lot of work. As far as run game goes, I put personnel and scheme up there neck and neck.
So let's take a quick break, and then we've got a couple more bullet points here on the run game that I want to get to.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
So dedicated fans of KC Sports Network that have been listening to Only Weird Games over the last week or two, I believe it was not the most recent episode, but 2 episodes ago, Seth was talking about one of the big changes that Veach has got to make this offseason, or that the Chiefs in general need to try to make, is that they need to start basically kind of approaching things a little bit more like John Dorsey, where I want to maximize the talent that I'm acquiring rather than focusing on the way that they fit into my team. Because the team went from being super duper talented and needing to fill in these positions with guys that were really good fits, but they had all those stars at the top, to we need to add more top tier stars to this team. Especially when you're picking in the top 10 of each round, right? And so I think that is a really interesting point. Great job, Seth. Congrats. I do think that the Chiefs need to start looking a little bit more purely at talent instead of some of those thresholds that they have, both offensively and defensively. And like notoriously, I think the biggest one for the Chiefs is the Spags edge thresholds. Like, they has to have this much weight and this much height and these long of arms and whatever. And historically, they never take guys that have shorter arms than this or whatnot. And the Chiefs do that with offensive tackles, and I'm sure different positions, but like, they need to just start drafting good players. Is kind of where they're at with the run game, I think. I think most people are like, we'll sign one and draft one is what they want to see. Like, double dip at this position. You've talked about Veach being aggressive. Is that something that you would expect? Like, give me Tyler Algier and a 3rd round pick? Did you see enough from Brashard Smith that maybe you're like, well, there's the 3rd down back next year? Like, what are you thinking in terms of personnel wise for this run game?
No, I did not see enough from Brashard Smith. I mean, he looked okay, but I would not rely on him as either RB1 or 2. So I guess that makes him RB3. I would also mention bringing back Kareem Hunt, because I think he holds a lot of value just because of his short yardage abilities. So I think that's something. Outside of that, I'm open to ideas. I don't think I'd go as far as taking one with that 1st round pick and Jeremiah Love. I think that might be too much. I'd probably be excited. But that's, man, you're never picking top 10, and then to get there and spend it on a running back, it's that would be tough, because I just feel like you need to aim for a position that's only going to be there in the top 10 kind of thing. And so maybe you could say that's like a blue chip running back, but I feel like, running backs, you can find a guy up there, like Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of a good example. But, you can also find them, here or there. I mean, we talked about at one point this year, like I think it was the top 4 rushers in the NFL were all 1-year free agents signed last year on $3 million deals. And it was just like, that's insane. Which means all of those guys will be up to be free agents once again. But yeah, I mean, Tyler Algier is a name you have mentioned. I would love for him to be kind of the run heavy guy. Kenny Gainwell, he's a free agent. I think he would be an excellent, receiving back option. He is very dynamic. I've watched way too many Steelers games down the stretch here because they've been on primetime over and over. But he makes a lot of plays. I think he's really strong. There's some other decent off. Rashad White, he's a free agent. He's a good receiving back
too.
From Kansas City. Really good receiving numbers. I really want them to find that receiving back. I am not sold on Brashard being that guy. I mean, he looked okay yesterday, but it was just kind of like here's a running back looking good in preseason. Like I just it took it with a big
the Raiders, in week 18. Like, I think that there's something interesting there, but I mean, he's a historical outlier. The only starting running back in the league that is even remotely the same size as him is Devon Achane. And so, I mean, I don't know. I'm in this like star versus stable in my mind. Like, do I want one guy that is just a threat on all three downs, or do I want them to have the Jerick McKinnon and, you know, the heavier run first? You know, do I want the two back system that it seems like a lot of teams are embracing and doing so successfully? The Lions aren't a great example because they didn't make the playoffs this year, but the Lions have, the Rams have two running backs that they've been relying on throughout the season. The Broncos had two running backs that they were relying on until Dobbins got hurt. And those are really, you know, the best team in each conference, I think, largely. I guess if you look at the Seahawks being the number one seed, even they have a two-back system with Charbonnet and Kenny Walker, a free agent. There's a bunch of guys from that draft class. And I think really the headline there is Breece Hall. And that's what I think a lot of Chiefs fans, because they, you know, flirted with him at the trade deadline. I think there are a lot of Chiefs fans that are maybe just saying, like, the minute free agency opens, the Chiefs are going to announce that they signed Breece Hall, like that, just that first minute deal. And I'll say this: number one, I would not be surprised by it. And number two, I think that is the reason I'm starting to lean toward that star running back, is because Andy can still, like, Breece Hall is a guy that can do all of the passing game stuff for this team. And that could even be almost like his primary responsibility as a runner. You're going to catch 80 passes this year, and 40 of them are going to be screens, and 40 of them are going to be, you know, various other things. But we're going to be screening the shit out of people next year because I got the line to do it, and now I have the running back to do it too. And I think that, like, they could still throw the ball 60% of the time and have a way more respected run game because people see that it's Breece Hall instead of fucking Isaiah Pacheco. And I don't know if that is correct, that that's how it'll be, but, like, I'm interested in the Love thing, man, because think about it this way. You said that, like, picking in the top 10, you don't really want to do it, like, for a running back, right? Well, let's look at the guys that, even if we're just talking fantasy numbers, okay? Let's look at the guys who really dominated this season. Bijan Robinson, top 7 or 8 pick in the NFL draft, okay? Christian McCaffrey, top 2 or 3 pick in the NFL draft, all right? I mean, Derrick Henry was a second rounder, I believe, right? But in terms of, like, the dudes that dominate, Saquon last year, top 5 pick, like, all of those guys, Bijan, CMC, and Saquon are elite, undeniable. Like, those were bona fide top 10 NFL picks, and they've had the careers to prove it, right? And when these running backs go this high in this era of the NFL, it really says something about the player. We don't have Kajana Carters and Curtis Enos's and all of those guys that busted in the 90s and early 2000s because the NFL doesn't draft them that way anymore. And I mean, it's who's the last, like, first round running back that was a big bust? Is it Trent Richardson? Because most of these guys that go in the first round do well. They become good players. And Jeremiah Love, the way that they talk about him, I mean, when people have been comparing as prospects these different runners, I've heard most people say that they have Love above a guy like Genty coming out last year, but below guys like Saquon and Bijan. But I mean, he's...
I'm sorry, I'm trying to look up who the busts would be because I feel like they're out there, aren't they? Has it really been that long since Trent Richardson since we've had a bust like that?
I mean, think about it. They weren't drafting running backs in the first round for a while. Like, you know, they had the Josh Jacobs year, and I don't know if you would consider him a bust because he's not with his original team, but, like, he was one of the best running backs in the league last year for the Packers. And I think he had a respectable career with a terrible franchise with the Raiders and got out of there as quick as he could.
Oh, we're missing a big one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Well,
hey, that's why I couldn't think of any because it's just been blacked out in my memory. All right, so I have a list here. It's Gibbs and Robinson in 2023, Etienne and Najee Harris in 2021.
Najee is a bust to me, and
Yeah,
Etienne a little bit too. Even probably.
Yeah,
both of those guys. That might have been.
I would want a better career than Travis Etienne. I'll say that. If we're taking now, he wasn't taking a top 10.
If I had Travis Etienne at Clyde's pick, I would be way more happy with what we got out of him.
Exactly. But at top 10, you need to get a Jahmyr Gibbs. You need to get a Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
You need to get, who's the Saquon Barkley. You need to get a guy like that. So you need to be 100% on him. Which
just love feeling like that.
I haven't really watched him that much. So I could be persuaded because I see it, but the smell test, it doesn't pass for me right away.
Yeah.
So I would lean something else. Personally.
Okay.
Just
Etienne, another guy in that draft class that will be available this offseason. Etienne is another player that will be a free agent this offseason. And he's another guy that in the passing game could be like he honestly had a really good year for the Jags. But after what Cohen did in Tampa last year with Bucky Irving and Rashad White, and then this year with Etienne, I think he's just really good in the run game. I don't know what Liam Cohen is doing, but his designs in the run game and the way that he's got it schemed up, running backs just are successful in his system. And so I don't know. I think Etienne might be a little bit of fool's gold in terms of free agency because he's coming out of a system that I believe in big time.
I agree. And just looking at Spot Rec here, again, I don't know how much to trust these market values or whatever. Tyler Algiers put at $1.8 million.
That seems crazy. I think that teams will give him more than that because they know more. Spot Trek's got to be using like what contract incentives have they earned sort of things or playing.
Well, I think it might just be a formula based on their career stats, and he doesn't have the stats because he has been the featured guy. But it has Gainwell at $2.8 million. So if either of those guys are anywhere near that price, if you give me both those guys, and that's our running back room for next year, those two free agents, I am in.
And I mean,
they talk me into a big guy. They need to revamp it, so they need to find it. So I don't know if it's not the first round pick and it's not one of these guys. I don't know what you're looking at. Throwing a lot of darts and taking a guy in the third round and a couple flyers, but
yeah, I do think the thing to keep in mind about running back is that I think you just get so much more bang for your buck in free agency on running backs than you do at other positions. Like running backs don't make that much money. So like they could sign Breece Hall and he could be top of the running back market and he gets $8 million a year. Whereas you go out and try to sign one of these receivers, they could fucking sign De'Ami Brown and he'll get a bigger contract than that. Like, and who gives a shit about that guy? No offense to De'Ami Brown, but like the Chiefs would sign like a fourth receiver. And that guy would make the amount of money on an average annual value basis that Breece Hall would. And that just doesn't move the needle for me, right? I think you get a lot out of running backs in free agency.
I wish you could see my screen right now because I literally have De'Ami Brown's stats pulled up because I was looking at the highest paid receivers just of like who could possibly be available. De'Ami Brown got paid $10 million. His career high for a season is 308 yards.
Yeah, he got a 1 year, $10 million deal from Jacksonville this year, and I bet he played 150 snaps, and they were all win sprints.
He did 11 yards in a 5-year career. Tutu Atwell also got a $10 million contract. He has 6 catches this year.
Yeah.
6. So,
and that's what I'm saying. Is like receivers are just getting so much money, man, that like I think you could get a good running back for less than a nothing burger at receiver in free agency.
Don't you think that will start to swing, though, because of everything swinging here, the culture and the swinging in the NFL? It's going back towards the running game. I think running back contracts start to go back up.
You're paying nothing to running backs. You're paying everything to these receivers. Like, it should start to shift, but the running backs don't have a whole lot of leverage, man.
I think you might start seeing it this year. I don't think you'll see those guys go for 1 year, $3 million. If they do, I would pounce on it and just snatch a couple of guys from that. Because that's what, you're looking at. We talked about those guys as Dowdle and Javonte Williams and J.K. Dobbins was tearing it up before he got hurt. I think there was one more guy in there, but just that 1 year, $3 million club just really tore it up. You'd have to imagine that price, the pendulum will start to swing back and we'll start to see that price go back up again.
Yeah. The next question, the third of the 4 questions I think the Chiefs are really facing this offseason is who can you rely on in the passing game? you touched on Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy very likely being at the top of your depth chart at receiver next year. I think that there are going to be a lot of Chiefs fans that want Tate at 9. I imagine that he will probably be there. And so they're going to say, well, you have an opportunity to take, a really good receiver and it'll just totally revamp your passing game and this, that, and the other. I think that you would have a really, really hard time, like in the Chiefs war room, making the case to take a receiver in the top 10 when you have a first round receiver and a second round receiver on your team that you think are good players. Like, even if Chiefs fans are down on Xavier Worthy or down on Rashee Rice, I don't think the organization is. I think that it's possible that they might be saying we might need to find more of a long-term anchor than Rashee Rice or whatever, but I don't think that they're in any way, shape, or form bailing on Xavier Worthy after what I feel like was an injury-plagued season for him. He was kind of doomed from the start. They should have shut him down. He should have gotten the surgery. But they chose to push through it because they thought they had a real chance at doing something this year. And they didn't do anything, and it ended up being a completely wasted year. I think that the Kelce part of this is where it starts to get really interesting, because let me ask you this. How many threats do you need in the passing game? Like how many guys do they need? Because if they're checking boxes this offseason, they say, well, we have Rashee Rice and we have our guy Xavier Worthy. How many more do they need? And I don't know the answer to that question, but like when they were at their best, it was Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and then we started seeing like a Sammy Watkins in there who got paid a ton of money but didn't necessarily statistically do a lot. And after that it's D-Rob, but you're starting to look at running backs and stuff like I don't know. I don't know if the Chiefs need another receiver. I mean, they need depth because these guys have shown a little bit of, especially Worthy, one bad hit, and it ruined his whole season. I don't know if I have a hard time seeing them taking a receiver in the top 10, me personally.
So they need a guy that they can depend on to win in man coverage.
Okay, is that an alpha? Do they need a number 1 wide receiver?
Like, I don't know how it needs to be an alpha. Like, you look at someone like Jawan Jennings on the 49ers, and that was someone who can regularly beat. They call him third and Jawan because he's so good at beating man coverage and getting open on third down. One of these little white wide receivers, little white slot guys, one of these guys who can just constantly win on 3rd and 5. I've been asking for 20 years, putting on my Christmas wish list. Still hasn't got answered. But someone you can rely on, just because neither of those, Xavier Worthy should be your man beater, and he just wasn't this year. Worthy is definitely my most disappointing player of the 2025 season. You can say it is all injuries. I guess I'll buy that. What I don't buy is that problem will go away because he's so slight of frame. I think he'll be dealing with injuries his entire career. So if he is not able to overcome those and play through those, it's going to be hard to rely on Xavier Worthy, being healthy and being a productive receiver for this team moving forward. But outside of that, I mean, even when you downsize and lost Tyreek Hill, that 2022 year, we're all kind of looking at it like, how can we get back to that? Because that was after Tyreek Hill, and it was still the number 1 offense in the league. I think a lot of people are overlooking that was still prime Travis Kelce. And so even with your fallback, you had all these different kind of weapons.
Lead the league in receiving yards that year.
It was his last monstrous year. And so I think you still had him as, call it the alpha, the guy you can rely on. We need a play here. Either they're going to give too much attention to Travis Kelce, and if they're not, we're going to go to him. Right now, they just simply do not have that. And so they're kind of just left scratching their heads on lots of third downs. And it's kind of like, Patrick, how about you run for it? Maybe that's our best case here to pick up a third down. So they need someone that can rely on, and I don't think they have that guy. Travis Kelce can't beat man coverage anymore. Rashee Rice is more of a zone receiver, yak guy. get him matched up on a linebacker and he's going to win that way. But if he's just lined up against a cornerback on a 3rd and 5, I don't have any faith on him getting open. Xavier Worthy should be that guy, as we talked about. So I don't think they have that guy. So need to find that guy. Carnell Tate, I'm not a guy who here is sitting here crunching tape. I look at the production. I don't even know his production. I look at the optics. He's not the number 1 receiver on Ohio State by a wide margin. So most of the attention from opposing defenses when they're playing Ohio State are not on him. They are on Brashard Smith. Brashard Smith.
Jeremiah Smith.
Jeremiah Smith. There we go. That's better. So he's the number 2 guy. That scares me a little. You could also just point at Ohio State's history and be like, all the receivers have panned out, whether the number 1 guy or not. So maybe that's a foolish theory at this point. But if you're taking a receiver, again, at that position, it's someone you need to be 100% on. And just my early thoughts on him, I don't feel 100%. He wasn't impressive in that playoff loss. So I can be open to listening to it if people I trust kind of get on board with him. But as of now, I'm not really down on him.
Can I ask, how important is it for Mahomes to have a good tight end versus just having any elite player?
I don't know, because we've never seen him without an elite tight end. Or I guess maybe we have these last couple of years, and he's fallen off quite a bit. So I would think you just need a weapon. I don't think it needs to be tight end necessarily. It could be a receiver, but yeah.
I saw a mock draft today that had the Chiefs taking that Oregon tight end, Kenyon Sadiq, at 9. And I think that some of that is you just lost Kelce and this guy seems dynamic and so on and so forth. But I'm like, I don't know if the Chiefs have to say, well, because we're losing Travis Kelce and we saw the Chiefs at their best with, elite Travis Kelce, that we're going to go out and pay Kyle Pitts $20 million a year in free agency, or that we're going to draft a tight end in the top 10, that's not Brock Bowers. We're going to take somebody higher than Brock Bowers got drafted. Like, I don't know if that's the move.
No, I would be shocked if they went tight end at that position. They're paying another tight end, and Noah Gray just had, put him up there on the most disappointing players of 2025. Noah Gray just had a down year where you're kind of expecting, you would kind of hope he would take another step this year and be like, okay, if Kelce walks, we're just going to plug in Noah Gray as your new tight end 1. But I don't think anyone's confident in that at this point. So now we're out here shopping again, where we're getting 1st-round looks at a tight end, or looking at the top end guys. We have to overpay for Kyle Pitts, who's underachieved. Chigo Kwaku, who I think is fun, but they got him listed here at $12 million. Joku at $10 million, likely at $9 million.
Was the market value for Okonkwo? Holy crap!
That's what they got.
I've been beating that drum a little bit. They said that he had the highest success rate of any player in the league on the shallow cross as a route, and I said, "Oh yeah." Like, give me that. Give me the tight end that can run mesh. Sounds like a dream for the Chiefs.
So Conco's been a 450, 528, 479, and 560. He's basically been a 500-yard receiver 4 years in a row. Super athletic, though, which is something that would be good to add.
And I mean, look at who else has been in Tennessee and on that Tennessee offense the last 4 years. It's like, I don't know if because he's kind of been the only game in town, he's a 400 or 500 yard a year receiver, or if you put him in a different offense and he is the 4th or 5th receiver, that suddenly those athletic gifts, he just flies off the screen. Like, it's possible,
But you're hoping a guy like that is someone you could, buy low on, because they haven't got the most out.
$12 million.
They ain't $12 million. Yeah. That ain't something really. And Noah Gray, I'm looking at here. Noah Gray had, I lost it, but he had 437 yards last year, 5 touchdowns. God, 21 catches and 178 yards this year.
He did.
The Noah Gray, it's like he got the money and stopped trying.
Take the money and run.
Don't pay your tight end too, folks. Don't do it.
All right. So 2 things on receivers that I need to do, and then we can get to our last question. You mentioned Juwan Jennings. I am anti Juwan Jennings because Shelby Harris made it very abundantly clear that is not a good person. That guy's a hoe. I want it known. He said things that no man should ever say to another man, and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, okay, I don't want him on my team. I'll be okay without the crazies.
He also, in the Ringer article with the top free agents, said he's gonna look at the shit. Who's dealing with it? Someone who got $20 million a year. It was the new dude on the Jaguars who just got $20 million a year. Jacoby Myers, and it was like that's where his asking price will start is $20 million a year. So that would be a hard no for Jawan Jennings. Obviously, all these guys we want are going to cost more than we want to pay. So you're kind of always looking for who could be the value. One name. I want to throw out a fun name just because when I was watching games yesterday, I can't help but notice on the Jaguars that they have Parker Washington, who has really emerged into a good receiver. They just spent the draft pick on Travis Hunter. They just paid Jacoby Myers, who is the dude left who had a disappointing season on that team with a coaching staff that's going to be there, had a very tumultuous year, had some issues, had some questions about him on his effort going for catches over the middle, but was outstanding last year. Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, what would you be willing to give up? If you're giving up, I don't think you go first round pick.
I'd give him the 40th pick for sure.
Yeah, if you're just second round pick, that's kind of what I was going to float. I think it would have to be something more like a second and a fifth. I mean, this is all just hypothetical.
I mean, he had such a good rookie season and such a bad sophomore season, and it is a GM and a coach that didn't even fucking draft him.
Exactly.
And so it's like, if they just thought that he had a terrible attitude all year long and they didn't like on field or off field Brian Thomas, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you get to ask for coming off a season like he just played for a guy that has one historic season and one really bad one? That's very interesting to me. I think Parker Washington might be the guy that, like, if they're going to deal somebody, they deal him. I mean, I
don't think so. No, because he's being featured. I feel like he's like on the come up.
I just assume that like next year they're gonna. Well, now it's Travis Hunter is going to be back into this 3 wide receiver mix, and the guy that loses snaps is Parker Washington because he's not Travis Hunter, he's not Brian Thomas, and he's not the guy you just gave a 3-year $60 million extension to.
But if they wanted to like maximize their return kind of thing, like I don't think Parker Washington fetches much, whereas Brian Thomas Jr. you could get a whole house for it. And if you got it, this is all obviously hypothetical, might be completely half baked. It's fun, sure. I mean, the signs are kind of there. Like, would you make the offer? What if you swap first round picks? You went from like 8 to what do they end up? 26 or 9 to 26?
They don't have one. They traded it.
Oh, right.
They don't have a first round pick.
Maybe they want a first round pick.
So,
what if you? I don't know. You'd have to get in the weeds there and trade the first round pick, get a second round pick kind of thing. Because I don't know if a second round pick would be enough. If it was, I would hop on that in a heartbeat just because you have 3 more years of control of him and he'd be cheap on the first round.
I think the highest I would go is giving them the 40th overall pick. And beyond that, we're having to start talking about, some swaps and stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. That's food for thought. Before we get to our last question, I want to push back on Worthy a little bit. And the reason being, look, I don't know if at the end of the day, like what is going to prove to be the thing that makes Xavier Worthy a good or bad receiver is how his speed translates or does not translate. But I think that it is a little bit dishonest and a little unfair to just blame the struggles that Xavier Worthy has had through 2 seasons on Xavier Worthy, on his size or whatever. Like, I think that he has arguably the coach on our staff that people have the least amount of faith in. And that's the only position coach that he's had at the NFL level. I also think that the thing that they seemingly drafted him for, to be a field stretching presence, is also the number one thing that his quarterback sucks at right now. And so whether it's Mahomes just overthrowing him, leading him out of bounds, like the accuracy on Mahomes' deep ball has been so all over the place through the 2 seasons that Worthy has been on this team that I cannot with clear conscience blame Xavier Worthy for the lack of productivity when throwing the ball deep. And so when I think about how they ended up using him last year to, I don't want to say great success, but they had to adjust their offense and say, well, Rasheed is gone And we need somebody that can be kind of a go-to in this passing game. So all of the short little shit that then, get in space and try to make moves and whatever, like that's what Xavier Worthy was as a rookie out of necessity. And this year he gets hurt in game 1. Didn't have Rasheed at that point to even balance the field anyways. Once everybody's back on the field, their timing is still all off. And I think as soon as Rasheed got back, Josh Simmons leaves, like all of these different things, the offense was just wrong all year. Like I personally think that they're going to walk into next season, and I say this tongue in cheek, but like comeback player of the year for Patrick Mahomes and or maybe literally any player on this offense, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, whoever, coach of the year, you missed the playoffs to, might be the number 1 seed. Like Andy might get his second coach of the year. Finally, might even just get a vote for the first time in God knows how long. Like Leafs are going to have some narratives that they can rely on as far as some of those national awards might be considered. But I think that I have no idea what they're going to do as far as tight end is concerned. Really just, I guess, as far as the offensive weapons are concerned, I think that arsenal is going to look very different, and that perhaps you're still going to see a Rasheed and a Worthy and maybe a Travis Kelce, and every other skill position player on the team is going to be new. Like, I think that there's a world where that's what you're looking at. Aside, a Jalen Royals or a Brashard Smith, guys that are under contract. But there is a lot of roster spots and snaps that are going to be up for grabs. And I think that you're going to see not just like a reinvigorated Patrick Mahomes. I think that you're going to see a completely different version of Xavier Worthy next year. I personally believe that.
They need it. I guess my fear is that I don't think the injury problems go away.
It's possible that is
if you're just chalking this entire year up to him getting hurt in week 1 and never getting over it.
Well, I think that the shoulder is not something to get over. It requires surgery. And so until the surgery fixes it, I mean, he's going to now because the season's over, but he had the nagging ankle all year long that made it even worse. I am more worried about the consistent ankle injuries than I am about the shoulder. Now,
I'm worried about all of it. He's a fucking child out there playing in the NFL. He's going to get hurt.
He is slight of stature. That's correct. All right. So the last question I think the Chiefs have to ask themselves this offseason, the biggest question they're facing this offseason is which defensive players are your building blocks? Who do you believe in? They've already paid Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, and Nick Bolton. And they are staring at, I think, right now, today, their best defensive player and Trent McDuffie needing a contract. I don't know if there's a franchise tag here. He is under contract with a 5th-year option this season. So like they don't have to do anything, but the reason that everyone keeps thinking that Trent McDuffie is either going to get an extension or going to get traded is because the Chiefs only have six draft picks in an offseason where they need to add a lot of talent. And they already have to start shuffling around the financial aspect of things in order to be able to play in free agency. So they're going to be a little bit limited in what they can do. And Trent McDuffie seems like the most easily tradable, valuable asset that they have. So I don't know if that means he's a building block or not. And honestly, the secondary might be like entirely in flux. They could be looking at losing their top 2 corners and their only like real good safety this offseason. If they trade McDuffie and they let Jalen Watson walk and they let Brian Cook walk in free agency, you're building around Noel Williams, and I don't know if Jamari Connor is I'm looking at this defense and I don't really know exactly. I don't know who the building blocks are. And ultimately, when I think about that secondary too, I almost wonder if we are going to trade Trent and we are going to let Jalen go and we are going to let Brian Cook walk because we have Dave Merritt. This is the Dave Merritt doctrine. Like that's just how we operate. We don't pay a bunch for these positions, and we'll let them leave. We're not going to be the one to give somebody $25 million a year in the secondary. It's just not that valuable to us for whatever reason. I don't know. I did when we mentioned that Spags was going to get some interviews. I instantly thought, well, if he leaves, it's Dave Merritt's defense. But I don't know, man. I felt like I went from this is a defensive football team a couple years ago to I really don't know what to think about this defense entering this offseason and going into next year. I don't know where I stand with these guys at all.
Yeah, I defense definitely had a down year. I think
Weren't they still like top 10 in points and yards though?
Well, it's a lot of it because of the style they play. This place is so slow on offense. They have these long drives, so it's limited drives kind of thing. It's if you want to point a finger at one thing specifically, it's third down defense, where that's where they made their killing. You know, when 2023 and they have the best defense in the league, you couldn't get 3rd and 6 plus on them. It was impossible to pick it up with how good their secondary was and how good their blitz scheme was. And then last year that kind of bled over and it was still pretty good on those money downs. And this year it completely fell off the cliff. Like the biggest change, I think, from 2024 to 2025 was the Chiefs' third down defense that just couldn't get a stop, which sucks because the personnel on the pass rush is, basically the same. And it just kind of fell off. Like I kind of wonder if teams just really studied like these Spags blitz schemes and kind of, they just weren't as effective as they were after a few years of getting tape on it. They're just kind of able to see what's coming more than they were in the past. But the most interesting discussion here, I think, is the McDuffie and Jalen Watson conversation, because I do think I didn't take anything away from Brashard Smith in these games, but the one player I did come away with in these last few games feeling good about was Christian Fulton. And I think people were very unfair to him, calling him a bust. I feel like he didn't get on the field because Noel Williams was playing really good, so he's kind of benched because of that. Then he got in there against Denver and gave up like a deep throw where his coverage wasn't even that bad, but it looked really bad getting beat off the line. And that was, he gave up like a couple passes in that game, but really one of them was the one, the kind of play where he's in a zone and he's the nearest defender, but I don't think it was on him. So I feel like he got like unfairly, just like this dude's a total bust and pushed aside, and we never got to see what he could do. Also, he might not have been fully healthy really, but he has been aggressive out there playing corner these last few games, attacking the ball when it's in the air, something we've rarely seen from Chiefs corners in the past, even when we've had really good ones. He was playing like a physical brand of football that I was hyped about. I know he's showing up on a lot of people's lists of a cap casualty this offseason. I do not think that will happen. I almost think there's no chance that Jalen Watson comes back, as much as that sucks, judging by the history of the Chiefs and what they can do and what's behind them. I think Noel Williams and Christian Fulton will be the outside corners on this team next year. Then the question remains, do you want to pay McDuffie and keep him in the slot? Now, there's a few theories on McDuffie. Why isn't he playing in the slot? Is it because the Chiefs don't want to? They want to be big in the slot and they want to play chimichurri in that slot position? Or is it McDuffie doesn't want to play in a position where he's getting roughed up more before he gets his big payday? If that is the case, and that theory has been postulated, then if you pay him, he should be willing to slide back into that slot cornerback position where he's dominant. I am totally happy to pay McDuffie top tier cornerback money if he's willing to play in that slot where I think he's a great player. If he's dead set, like him personally, dead set on playing outside, or if the idea from Spags is to play him on the outside, I do not want to play him, and I would trade him for as much as you can get this offseason. So big question marks there that we can't really answer. I'm not sure what's going on, but I think his future with the Chiefs, if it's getting paid, has to be in the slot. And, but I think there's the option of getting rid of both. And then you're going with Noel Williams and Christian Fulton on the outside, and you keep moonlighting with, Roland Wallace or chimichurri in that slot position and just kind of, faking your way through the slot cornerback position and sticking with the status quo kind of thing. And I think you can get by with that and then be really cheap in that secondary, at least at the cornerback position, and get by with that based on the coaching of Dave Merritt and this team's ability to find guys, later in these rounds and get the most out of them. I think they would be okay doing that. So I think a lot of options are on the table. I think Jalen Watson is not a Chief in 2026. I think he's going to go out and get paid as he deserves to. But I think the big question mark is what they want to do with McDuffie.
That is probably, in terms of like one individual decision, it might be the biggest and most impactful thing that they got to decide this offseason.
How about Trent McDuffie for Brian Thomas Jr.? Straight up.
Would you?
Yeah.
I actually think that that's a who says no situation, because the Jaguars adding a Trent McDuffie to that defense allows them to be a lot more patient with Travis Hunter, both offensively and defensively. It also kind of eliminates, if you take Brian Thomas out of that equation, it means that like you have this kind of spot, I guess, waiting for Travis Hunter a little bit next year. But I don't know. That's really interesting.
I think they're both right around the same kind of value, because we've been kind of debating if McDuffie would fetch you a first round pick, maybe a high second round pick, and that's kind of where we put the Brian Thomas Jr. price I get too. So
this is the sort of possibility that I think is going to be a really good Twitter poll. Going to be interested to see where the percentages lie on that one. And like such a potentially fun hypothetical. This is like one of those that you might see on First Things First this offseason somewhere. Like it's just gonna pop up.
We gotta start planting seeds. We gotta start feigning some reports like, oh, Brian Thomas Jr. getting restless. Maybe Trent McDuffie refuses to play the slot.
That is honestly a very, very, very fascinating probability there. I get possibility more than probability. All right, Dirk. I think we've done it.
Well, do you agree? Do you agree about Jalen Watson? You think he's gone?
Unfortunately, yeah. I do think that there's a world where the Chiefs could say, we believe so much in this player and his character that we want to, give him a 3-year contract or something. And we'll turn around and trade McDuffie. And we believe that the combination of Watson and Fulton and Noah Williams is excellent, but that just doesn't make sense, because like you have Fulton under contract and you have Noah Williams, and presumably those can be your starters, and you can go out in free agency and sign an adequate outside corner backup for probably a few $1,000,000. You can draft some guys, as they've gone young at this position before to great success multiple times. And so I think that they will probably, I imagine that corner room just looks so much different next year, because Joshua Williams is expiring. Jalen Watson is expiring. That means that Najee Johnson is expiring. He won't be brought back, I imagine. And so you're going to be looking at, I mean, I don't want to get into who's going to be playing in the fall. There's so much that can happen in between now and then, but I mean, it's possible that you're starting a Noah Williams, Christian Fulton, Chris Roland Wallace corner trio in the fall. And man, I couldn't even tell you who's going to play safety behind him. Honestly, I'm not even totally sure who's going to be playing linebacker next year. There are a lot of questions for this team in terms of who we're going to keep and who we're going to be targeting. And I imagine, Dirk, that we will probably try to do a free agency preview of some sort before we call it a winter. Maybe dip our toe into the draft. Who knows? Have seen a few folks saying, guys, it's an important offseason. We need a little bit more from you. We'll see. I don't know.
Are you making that up? I haven't seen that at all.
No, I had a couple people that were like, hey, I know you guys don't normally, but so we
somebody tell me what else. I want to get involved here. I want to feel more.
Okay.
Otherwise, no shows. If you don't tweet that you want the show, then no shows.
Well, Dirk, any final words for 2025 before we we are in 2026. It's officially 2026. We are turning the page. The football season is over. The year from hell is over for the Chiefs. Do you have any either final words for 2025, or maybe want to set the tone for 2026? The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl.
I mean, I'll probably pick them, sure. It is a big season. You think about like rebound seasons, and it's like, man, we got our asses kicked in the Super Bowl, and it's like, you try to, oh man, we're going to get our revenge, but you still made the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was obviously terrible, but it's still like, well, we're just going to be right back in the conference championship, and I guess we'll see how it goes from there. To actually be down like this, to watch Chiefs games like it's 2008 out here, just meaningless, terrible football at the end of the season, which we haven't seen in God knows how long, outside of, we already have this number one seed wrapped up kind of thing. But
very different context, right?
Yeah. To watch like it was a real flashback to, olden days, to have games where you're debating if you should cheer for the team, which I'm fine with in a one-off like yesterday. Like I was happy to see the 9th pick come through. I'm not going to do it for multiple out here. Like, we got to lose out. We got to lose all these games, which they did. So credit to them. But those kind of questions, which I have been faced with in, well over a decade, 15 years or so, it really motivates you to want to see the team be good again. It really wants you, damn, did we let this slip through your fingers? Like, is this run actually over that we kind of thought was just going to keep going? I mean, once you're in it, you just think it's going to keep going. And to see this big of a diversion in the path, it really makes you want to get back to it. So I will be, I feel like lots of off seasons, I'm just kind of like, it's so much about the bottom of the roster and all this crap. And it's hard to pay attention when it's just like, man, even the regular season games don't even feel that important anymore, because I know we're going to get to the AFC Championship. That feeling is now gone. And so it's really about just crawling back out and hoping this regime. I mean, I get super frustrated seeing the talk about, Andy Reid and stuff online, but if he has one more bad year, it's going to be harder and harder to defend it. So, I will get mad at it in my mind for the time being, with the hopes that they will be back, because they always have been during this run. And that's it. I'm just kind of rambling here because I am, want to see this team get back to greatness next year. So it will mean more next year coming off of this disaster of a season.
26 is gonna get a lot of hyperbole from fans and media. The most important year. This is the most important off season. It's going to be the most a lot of things. The way that it's framed. I do think it's obviously a pivotal time, both in Patrick's career and Andy's career and Brett Veach's career and ultimately the Chiefs. I mean, this is a team that in 5 years is going to be playing in a different stadium, than they've been in for the last 50 years or whatever it is at this point. And so I think that there's a lot that they have to think about, in terms of both what they want to accomplish in the immediate term and what they're trying to do over the next, let's call it 10 years or so. They have got to be positioning themselves to be as competitive as possible during however many years we have remaining of Patrick Mahomes. And they have been so forward thinking, I think pretty much in a bunch of different ways as far as Patrick is concerned, that I want, as best I can possibly impress upon our listening audience, like, you guys should be able to sleep pretty peacefully this offseason, that the Chiefs are going to, they may not, with the moves that they make, get it right, but I can promise you they're not going to be complacent. We're going to have a whole bunch of stuff that we say, all right, well, they had a plan, and here's all the stuff that they did. And then, when we hit training camp and we hit preseason, we ultimately, hit September. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what it looks like. But I'm really excited to see how this entire organization, the pride that they have on the line, and the expectations that they have for themselves, how they rebound from such a completely disappointing season. Across the board, there's nothing about this season that anybody really wants to hang their hat on. I'd say maybe the only thing that people want to celebrate is the fact that Josh Simmons appears to be a pretty good football player, but beyond that, it's just a lot of bad. And so I know they're going to be eager to turn the page, and I think they're all going to be very motivated in a way to get that bad taste out of their mouth, get these memories out of people's minds, and get right back to the greatness that like they all expected themselves and we expected them to. And I just imagine that they'll be there. I imagine that we're going to be, this time next year, like, all right, here we are back where we belong. It's playoff time, and very possibly, very potentially as the number one seed. I believe in this team. I believe in this organization, like at that level. And I think that when you go from, picking at 28 or later, like 7 years in a row, and suddenly you get to pick at 9 and 40 and 75. I mean, like it's going to be wonderful. I'm really excited to see the kind of talent that this team adds and the way that they change things up this offseason. I am Ryan Scott Hall. He is his Dirkness. This has been another episode of Amateur Hour. Keep listening to KCSN this week and every week of the offseason. I'm sure that the boys at the lab and Only Weird Games, I'm sure that Tucker and Matt are going to be yelling on that football show as they always do. Gonna be a big, important, pivotal offseason. And stay right here on KC Sports Network for all your Chiefs needs. Yeah, that's what I got.
You get the bonus for this, Reed?
No, it's, corporate clicks, man. Supporting the brand. All right, folks, says tough season.
Let's Kingsley Suamata or hurdle our way out of this.
Hurdle our way out of this.
I don't even know his last name anymore. Kingsley.
I would imagine as news comes in, and we're going to be evaluating our schedule over the next few, I guess couple months really as we start getting into this offseason. But we will talk to you guys again before January is over. I'm positive, and talk some offseason stuff. But until then, I'm Ryan Scott Hall. He's his Dirkness. This is Amateur Hour.
Suamataia.
You're still working on that pronunciation.
Suamataia.
All right, go Chiefs.
Chiefs.